Welcome back. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go into I don't know if he's a subscriber or not, but he weighed in, this person, I don't know if it's a he or she, it's one of those, don't know, and they weighed in to a comment that we made from the previous video that was relating to the Pope. It's okay, we can talk about the Pope. It's not like anathema or anything like that. It's okay, it's permitted. And we referenced that he pertained to Marxism. Now, from a historical standpoint, well, let's just go ahead and read it. From a historical standpoint, from within the Roman Catholic Church, we need to understand a couple of variables that are very important. The Pope woke up one day in the 1800s and he says, hey guys, guess what? I'm infallible. And this is ex cathedra, coming from the throne room of God. I'm infallible. Using that as a doctrinal backdrop, let's fast forward a little bit. A few years ago, who was it? What was his name? John Paul II. Yeah. Karl, Joe's a very Polish name. And he came out and said, oh yeah, there's many pathways to God. Many pathways to God. So keeping in mind, whatever he says is infallible and or ex cathedra, coming from the throne room of God. In other words, it's gospel truth with the spiritual imprimatur, if you follow that, of being a perfect saying. Without further discussion. Now, anyway, getting back, this person, we're going to go to him right now, is rather interesting. His name is Electuum. Joined 1 year ago. At 228, that's at the 228 mark. No, he wasn't, he responds, vis-a-vis relating to the fact that we mentioned that the Pope was a Marxist. You don't even know what a Marxist is? Yeah, we do. We certainly do. There are very poignant tie-ins that tie this in. First of all, Marxism, per se, is it's got other brothers and sisters that make up the delineation of its succession, is a good way to put it. Kind of a little wordy, but so what? Because first you have, let's just make this very simple, okay? First you have liberalism. Then liberalism usually morphs into socialism. Socialism then morphs into Marxism. And then you get into the revolutionary aspect of it, which of course is Bolshevism. Okay? Then after that, it goes into communism, and communism is basically atheism on steroids, is what communism is. But it goes liberalism, socialism, Marxism, communism, atheism. Atheism is usually the benchmarks on it, the trail of it, is usually what happens, is what normally is the case. Now, in the case, well, first of all, let's go to your website, Electuum. We came back and we asked, how long have you been a Marxist yourself? Because obviously it would take one to know one. Now, on this person's channel, profile, platform, description, let's go into him. Electuum. And let's go down and let's see what this says. It says garbage posts. What are you saying, Electuum? Garbage posts, but sub anyway. Wow, if that isn't the dialectic, then what is? So you feel subconscious about having a platform, a YouTube platform channel, i.e. channel, and you're making the statement garbage posts. So you're putting out there, you're publishing garbage. Electuum, do you see anything weird about this? Probably not. Not you, Electuum. Garbage posts, but sub anyway. It's like saying, this is poison, but drink it anyway. There, Electuum. I don't know what you're trying to do with that icon, personage, but you're going to do what you want to do, Electuum, with your quote-unquote garbage posts. So, getting back to John Paul II, yeah, a few years ago before he died, and then a couple other ones. I think Cardinal Ratzinger is still alive. Nobody ever talks about him. I don't think he passed away. I don't follow him, but, you know, what happened to him? Because they shuffled him out and moved Francis in there. I think it was Francis. And this new guy, Leo, but it was Pope John Paul II. Here's the crux of the matter. We'll wrap it up right now. The Vatican. We'll just say the Vatican. You know, it's got that phallic symbol of Horus in its it's got 8 points to the circle, and right in the middle of the circle, in the square of St. Peter's or St. Peter's Square, it has the phallic symbol of Horus. You know, Isis, Osiris, and their son, Horus, who keeps getting regurgitated every year. And the phallic symbol stands or represents the male member of Osiris and or Horus that keeps getting killed off, and then Isis looks for the male parts, and supposedly she found 13 of them in the Nile River, and then she built them up into this obelisk, which constitutes the symbolizing of a male phallic symbol. Are we making this thing clear? That is in the middle of St. Peter's Square, in the middle of a circle that's subdivided up by 8 subdivisions. So, the Vatican, for many, 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 many years, has come out and said prolifically that they are just not on board with capitalism. They are not. To accuse the Vatican, you will never find anybody accuse the Vatican of being capitalist, albeit the fact that they are. But they'll never admit it because it runs contraindicative or contradictive to their theology. Better yet described, to their party line, their rhetoric, their agenda, and or their, what's that other word I forget offhand, but anyway. So we're going to read what a true definition, I think I got it up here somewhere, of Marxism is. Let's read that. 1 second. No, Pope Francis, this is going back to Pope Francis that we mentioned, is not a Marxist, though some of his statements and actions have been interpretive as aligning with Marxist ideas. That's very interesting. So we're going to see where this paints a picture that by default, since he is not a quote-unquote capitalist, by default, what does that make him? Remember, liberalism, socialism, Marxism, in that order of succession. Marxist ideas, particularly his criticism of capitalism. He has explicitly stated he is not a Marxist, according to The Guardian. While he emphasizes social justice and economic inequality, his approach is rooted in Catholic social teaching, not Marxist ideology, according to the Cato Institute. Well, you know, if it looks like a duck, and if it walks like a duck, and if it quacks like a duck, chances are it's going to be a duck. That is where this is coming from. Because sure, on one hand, they will have nothing remotely to do with capitalism, where they say they don't, where they, no pun intended, preach against it. But, however, their actions describe them by default, since they are staunchly not capitalists. By default, what does that make them? But it all falls back. Roman Catholics don't know this, but again, the Pope, I'll get that, I'm a little bit remiss, I don't recall it was around 1850, somewhere in there. He woke up one day and he says, hey guys, you know, look, I'm infallible. Whatever I say is gospel truth. It's perfect. That's what infallibility is. Infallibility, by definition, is without error. And if it's coming from the ex cathedra, that means from the throne room of God. Now, of course, you can't find this in the Bible. Nope. But you can find where they say, oh yeah, the church replaced Israel. As a matter of fact, it was the last Pope who said that the 6-point-star people are our elder brothers. Oh, well, that's just Marvy. How would you like to have your elder brother deny Christ? After Christ told their Sanhedrin in Matthew 23:38 that your house is left unto you desolate. And that is why, now see, the Seventh-day Adventists, they're a cult. I don't go into all the ramifications of that, but just take it for face value, they're a cult. And they will say that the Pope is the Antichrist. Well, their eschatology is off. We're not going to go into that. You know, it's like Abbott and Costello. Who's on first? We're not going to go into that. But what they have been talking about places a lot of the onus on the Pope, because the Pope, even though, albeit the fact that the Pope is not the vis-a-vis, per se, Antichrist, and this goes back to Seventh-day Adventism with their worship of Saturday it's like a form of Hebrew realism that they just worship the Sabbath. They worship Saturday, vice the venerable day of the sun. People don't understand that. You know, Monday is Moon Day. To go on and on and on. Our whole paradigm has been based on what we have been left with from purely a dynastical viewpoint. And that's why we talk so much on the beast that rises up out of the sea with the 7 heads, the 10 horns, and the 10 crowns upon the heads. Or the horns, I'm sorry. But that's a different story. But this is because we're taking, there is no, we'll explain it like this. This is probably the best way to get a grasp on it. The Pope is very reminiscent of the metaphor that's being brought forth in chapter 17 of Revelation, where you have the woman who rides the beast. Now, the beast is unmistakably the 6-pointed star, what represents the 6-pointed star. The woman has many daughters. All these denominations happen to be her daughters. She's riding the beast. She's riding her elder brother, like Pope Francis said. That are still, again, how would it be if you had an elder brother that was anti in place of or against the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross? That would be counterindicative of your overall faith. You would then be labeled as a hypocrite, rightly so. Don't people think about these things? Why not? Why can't they grasp this? Oh no, we're going to go with tradition. Yeah, that's usually what you do. You got that right. So there we have it. It's because here's the bottom line. Thought just occurred to me, this unction, many unction, is that you have the woman who rides the beast. You have this false religiosity that pertains to the world as a whole. But it has the veneer. It's exactly like it calls it. The lamb that rises up out of the earth looking like a lamb with 2 horns. Catholicism. And conversely, her sister, one of her bigger sisters, with all the 7-year dispensational pre-trib Rapture-Cultists. They're all in it together. But that woman that rides the beast, she's riding the beast out of her own fortuitous pleasure because she gets something out of it. There's a synergism that goes between the woman and between the beast that she rides, and vice versa, for the time being. But you know what it says in 17 of Revelation. Behold, I sit as a queen, and I shall know no sorrow. Therefore her plague shall come in one day, death, mourning, and sorrow. So, you Roman Catholics, this is your heritage. These are your man-made traditions. These are the things that you're gonna but we'll leave it there. If you're remnant, please stay remnant. Help and continue to row that spiritual boat. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. And let's get the message out there. A message of what? A born-again Israel. The church did not replace Israel. There is no dual covenant theology. No, there is only one name under heaven whereby man must be saved, and that man Jesus Christ. Not Mary. She's not the co-remediatrix. She's not the co-redemptrix. None of that garbage. But you're going to do what you want to do. You know that. You know you will. Well, we've given you the facts in our inimicable kind of way, warts and all, whatever. But you're going to do what you want to do, Roman Catholics. 7-year dispensational pre-trib Rapture-Cultists. 6-pointed star enthusiasts that your house is left unto you desolate? You three groups. You know, the lamb that rises up out of the earth again. Looking like a lamb, but what? Speaking like a dragon. Revelation chapter 13. We'll leave you with that thought. If you're remnant, stay remnant. I love you guys. We'll be back soon.